It's all quiet in the underground bunker. Doors closed, locks bolted. But the Great One isn't just resting on his laurels. He's making sure your weekend is even better by giving you his best. This is the best of Mark Levin.
I'm very resentful right now. In fact, I'm pretty angry right now. The left, the media, former federal prosecutors and their ilk seem to be saying if we criticize federal judges, if we criticize them, there's something wrong with us. If we criticize them, we're the ones who are politicizing the judiciary. If we criticize them, we might even be encouraging violence against judges. That is a contemptible, blasphemous lie. Any more than criticism of any public officials would cause any of those things to occur. This government was founded for we the people. We the people. By and for we the people. We have a constitutional construct that is being attacked at every level and in every direction. It is important that those of us who believe in the Constitution and believe that it protects we the people speak out and defend it. If you're interested in taking somewhat of a deep dive here, then this is your right show. The Constitution of the United States creates one court, the Supreme Court. I disagree slightly with my friend Newt Gingrich. No, Congress cannot abolish the Supreme Court. It can change the number of justices, but the court is a constitutional construct. Every other court is a creation of Congress. It creates it, it can eliminate it. It funds it, it can defund it. I also don't agree that we should be impeaching these judges. You want to know why? Not one of them will be removed. Not one. We don't have a super duper majority of senators that will vote to remove any one of these judges, as long as the Democrats hold 47 seats. So that's not going to happen. So let's not piss in the wind, wet ourselves in the face, and act like we're doing something. There are ways to address this, and I'll get to this later. These federal district courts are a creation of Congress and the president with his signature. They pass what are called judicial acts or judiciary acts, starting in 1801. There's literally nothing in the Constitution that confers judicial review on any court, including the Supreme Court. So judicial review is at best an implied power. Thomas Jefferson would even reject what I just said. The framers of the Constitution, the ratifiers of the Constitution, believed strongly and said so and wrote so that the action would be in Congress and in the executive branch, the elected branches. At no time and nowhere did anybody, Federalist, non-Federalist, whatever you want to call them, Whigs, at no time did anybody argue for judicial supremacy. At no time did anybody argue that the Supreme Court should have the final say, let alone litigation trial district courts created by Congress. Obviously, they hadn't been created yet, but they couldn't have imagined it. And the idea that you can't criticize these judges, the vast majority of whom were appointed because they reject the constitutional order, the vast majority of whom were appointed, the ones we're talking about, by Clinton, Obama, and Biden because they were vetted as radicals, as activists, because they believe in the Wilsonian view of the judiciary, that radical change, that revolutionary change, centralized government comes from unelected judges. The idea that somebody like me writes about it and speaks to it and criticizes it and says enough is enough, that somehow I'm political. That somehow that this could lead to violence is outrageous. It's disgusting. It's unconscionable. We have free speech in this country, not just for Hamas supporters, but for law-abiding, patriotic Americans. There's not a word that passes my lips that suggests anything but legitimate and civil criticism. And that goes for anybody that I talk to on radio or TV. Just because some former federal prosecutors and others have been captured by what's been created out of whole cloth, just because they lived it and they practiced it and they were paid for it, doesn't mean the rest of us have to watch our Constitution be shredded right in front of our eyes. We now have a federal judge who says he ordered the President of the United States to call back an airplane or more, maybe two, that were flying vicious rapists, some killers, back to Venezuela from where they came. To El Salvador, these Venezuelan gang members. And we have the media, including the Wall Street Journal, Politico, and all the rest saying people like me are politicizing the judiciary. Let me be clear. The judiciary is politicizing the judiciary. When judges act like politicians, they must be criticized because they are surrendering their crucial responsibility to the left, to the abusers of government. They can't claim the role of referee and then put on the uniform of one side or the other. You don't hear me attacking the independence of the court system. You hear me demanding the independence of the court system, upholding the Constitution, eliminating activism. That's where I come from. The key to our Constitution, as the framers explained in the Federalist Papers more than once, the key to our Constitution, as the great Antonin Scalia said, is separation of powers. Jefferson made the point. And he wasn't alone. Madison made the point, the father of the Constitution. Jefferson, the father of the Declaration. Where else are we supposed to go? Play along? Only exercise free speech when it's approved, when it's okay? No, we're not going to do that. The criticism of these judges is more than warranted. They're way out of line. They know they are. The plaintiffs, that is the petitioners bringing these cases, they know they are. They're specifically picking these heavy Democrat cities because they know it's more than likely they'll get one of these radical judges appointed by Biden or Obama or Clinton. That's why most of these cases are brought in Washington, D.C., in New York, Providence, Rhode Island, Boston, Massachusetts, Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, California. They're gaming the system. They're literally picking judges who they know will rule on their behalf. This isn't about some criminal case, a motions filing, a brief where you don't like the result, a sentencing where you disagree with a judge. This is about the Republic. It's bigger than one case. The myopia of some of these commentators is pathetic. They want to defend these judges, then defend them. But get into the case. Explain to us what the Constitution says. Explain to us what the law says. Show us how these judges are ruling by upholding the law and the Constitution. That they won't do. They speak in generalities. The constitutional crisis we face right now is coming out of the lower courts of the federal judiciary. And it's got to be stopped. It either has to be stopped by the Supreme Court or stopped by Congress. The problem with Congress is the filibuster rule in the Senate, and I support the filibuster rule, but the Democrats are not going to try and limit the authority of these unelected lawyers at the trial court level. They're not going to do it. That doesn't mean we don't push it. That doesn't mean we don't put it on as riders. It doesn't mean we figure out how to put it in some kind of reconciliation so we can get past the filibuster rule. The smart parliamentarians in the House and the Senate who know Robert's rules up and down, they need to put their heads together and help figure this out. The four original constitutionalists on the court, Alito, Thomas, Kavanaugh's been doing well, Gorsuch, they need to sit down and have a chat with the Chief Justice. Because things are out of control. And they're going to continue to go out of control. If federal district judges act like federal national potentates. I've got a lot more to say, and I want to focus in on what this judge did or tried to do when he tried to order the President of the United States to call back planes in international airspace, to return Venezuelan gang members, vicious, vile gang members, back to the United States. You see, Joe Biden can open the border and invite them in specific violation of federal immigration law. But if Donald Trump's trying to enforce federal immigration law and remove them, apparently he needs this judge's permission. That's bullcrap.
Mark Levin.
Making your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, we're all watching, or at least I'm watching, depending on where you are, the return of these two astronauts. There's actually four. Two went up in September, but the two that have been there languishing for 9 months would not have happened but for SpaceX, Elon Musk, and his entire team. You know, it wasn't that long ago when somebody like Elon Musk would be praised. He'd be on all the big network TV shows. He'd be honored. There'd be a ticker tape parade for him down Fifth Avenue in New York. That we know the name of all the senior people at SpaceX. That the media would be crowding to invite them on their programs and to celebrate them. We'd have individuals with knowledge about these sorts of things telling us about the space vehicle that went up and brought these people back. We'd know a lot more than we know today. This is historic in every respect. It is truly incredible. While people are out there vandalizing Tesla dealerships, while they're out there vandalizing individual Tesla automobiles owned by people, while they're vandalizing Tesla charging stations, while the ruling class, politicians, and their media are smearing and character assassinating Elon Musk. he did something nobody else could do, including NASA on its own. Nobody. He saved these 2 astronauts. That's what he did. And it was a priority of President Trump. Another remarkable man, quite frankly. Elon Musk is appearing in various media outlets and so forth. We've not circled back, tried to meet with him. Maybe we will at some point. We haven't circled back to interview President Trump or any of these folks. We will. But the hosts are lined up right now, and you can see their appearances here and there, and that's a good thing. I'll wait a little bit till things settle down. But this is unbelievable. This is remarkable. It truly is. Shows how capitalism, entrepreneurship can actually work in miraculous ways. Shows how a man with an agenda, whether it's PayPal, whether it's Tesla, which the left is trying to destroy, the left builds nothing. They build nothing. Their billionaires build nothing. Soros builds nothing. They destroy. They redistribute. They steal. They grift. They build nothing. You could take all the money that George Soros has and Warren Buffett has together. They haven't built a damn thing. They invest in companies that already exist. They try and sell them at opportune times, make a few shekels, actually a lot here and there. They don't actually build a damn thing. Elon Musk, he makes his money by building things. He bought Twitter. He's rebuilt it. He's lost a lot of money. He's also a patriot. Again, I don't know this man. I met him in passing. This is a billionaire who deserves to be a billionaire. He didn't inherit anything. Illegal immigrant. Built everything from the bottom up. He's provided goods and services that the American people want, that the left are trying to destroy. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. He didn't buy Tesla. He created Tesla. He didn't buy SpaceX. He created SpaceX. He didn't buy PayPal. He was one of the creators of PayPal. I'm not saying it's not important that people buy things. We're wealthy and so forth. But people do make their money in different ways. He's a self-made man, the richest man on earth. I don't know if he still is, but he's up there. He should be celebrated, shouldn't he? We spend more time talking about Khalil, the terrorist-supporting foreigner who's in the country, inciting riotous activity against Jews, at the Democrat Party, at the ACLU, at left-wing judges, a person who they are defending. We spend more time, our country, dealing with over 200 Venezuelan gangsters. Because a federal judge, and I'll get into him, now turns out as a severe conflict of interest, whose daughter works for one of these immigration groups that tries to prevent illegal immigrants from being deported. Did you know that? We'll get into that. One of the judges, you'll learn soon, I won't get into specifics, he has spent his life advising on DEI and representing such groups, and he's ruled on DEI too, that the effort to shut it down is unconstitutional. Our media spent a lot of time talking about Washington. They spent a lot of time defending the ruling class, defending the bureaucracy, defending the left. They spent a lot of time presenting us with Bernie Sanders, who hasn't done a damn thing for this country in his entire wretched life. They spent an entire weeks at a time promoting AOC. Hasn't done a damn thing for this country and never will. These are socialists. These are Marxists. These are destroyers. Exploiters and opportunists. But then again, so are so many of the people in the media. But this is what they do. Every day in this country, there are men and women who are developing things, who are inventing things. Men and women who are contributing to this society in big ways and small. Every day. And yet every day they're ignored. And every day we hear about the bureaucracy. We hear about the most outrageous things said by politicians. Every day. It's not America. They don't present us with America. They present us with the ruling class. I've been thinking about this as I write this book. Every single damn day, the media is focused on the ruling class, protecting it, advancing it, celebrating it, promoting it. The vast majority of the country is utterly ignored. When's the last time you saw a story on farmers who feed us? On ranchers who feed us? When's the last time you saw one of those stories? When's the last time you saw a story about truckers? And men and women who work on the railways, who bring us our food? When's the last time? When's the last time they spoke to anybody who works at UPS or FedEx or the Postal Service for that matter? Who every single day bring us our mail, bring us our packages. When's the last time they did a story on Amazon and Bezos? They hate him now, of course, because he's trying to turn around the wreck that's been the Washington Compost. What about that? Everyday goods, everyday services, everyday contributions. Ignored completely. Totally. You watch this on TV, this is amazing. What's been done here? You will never know the names of the men and women on Elon Musk's team at SpaceX, maybe now that I've mentioned it, who've done what they've done. It's incredible. Bet you'll know the name of every low-life member of Congress who uses the F-bomb, who appears on cable TV 6 times a week, who talks about dictatorships and tyrants and all the rest as the American people work to make this country function. As the American people drive opportunity, prosperity, growth, innovation. We the people. And when is the last time we the people were the subject of the media? They seek to manipulate us and put us down and dismiss us. The only thing that matters is what's going on in Washington, D.C. It's government-centric, day in and day out, day in and day out. They all talk like Marxists about redistribution of wealth, getting the billionaires. The judges are a disgrace, and I'll deal with John Roberts soon. A disgusting besmirchment of our constitutional system. And this guy, the Chief Justice, who could have done something about it 2 weeks ago, he speaks out. Impeachment's not the proper response. He lectures the President of the United States. Takes off his black robe. Destroys all the decorum. Comes to the defense of the rogue radical trial judges, a.k.a. slip and fall, ambulance-chasing lawyers in black robes. Marxists and socialists in black robes. Islamists in black robes. That's what they are. That's who Biden, Obama, and Clinton put on the federal bench. And you and I were supposed to sit silently. I heard a former federal prosecutor on my favorite network going on and on about how he's had many, many cases, you know, and sometimes they're wrong, and that's the way it goes. No. We're not talking about criminal cases. We're talking about the Constitution of the United States. Who gets to do what It's the heart and soul of our republic. Not the courtroom where these former federal prosecutors, yes, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. If we have federal judges who aren't going to uphold the Constitution, they're not Your Honor. They're your dishonor. And in this country, we have free speech, and it's not limited to two branches of government. Is it? No, it's not. Where's progress being made in the private sector? Where's their hope in the private sector? Not government. There's not a single corporation in America that would survive if they were run like USAID, which a federal judge just stepped up and stepped in and interfered to protect. There's not a single private sector business that would survive that can't fire people and hire people on merit. Not one. There's not a single private sector business that could survive if it had gang members attacking its facilities and its employees. Not one. D.C., the ruling class, is in a cocoon of their own making. John Roberts doesn't live in the communities and the neighborhoods that are suffering the consequences of rogue judges.
Mark Levin. You're listening to the best of Mark Levin.
The truth of the matter is, America, that behind this microphone, on the Blaze digital platform, and my Fox show, we've led the effort now to push back against the rogue judiciary. We don't have judges anymore. We have judicial oligarchs. Now, understand how this works. They have their own courtroom, but they have their own office. And they have a conference room, and they tend to have some law books, like they look like they're actually using them. At the district court level, depending on the judge, they have 2 or 3 clerks. So there's a lawyer with 2 or 3 recent law graduates sitting together and apparently deciding how to run the country. I can tell you, and as you listen to this program over the years, you know, this is not America's constitutional republic. These judges with their own little fiefdoms, meet in the conference room, sit with their clerks, decide what they want to do as the ends justify the means. They don't even respect the fact that they're federal district judges in a federal district, which is where their rulings are supposed to be effective. So they sit there with their 2 or 3 law clerks. Sometimes the judge will sit there alone, and he or she will decide, no, the President of the United States cannot and will not do this. No. And I'm going to issue a ruling that extends far beyond the courthouse, far beyond the jurisdiction I'm in, for the entire country. But wait a minute, you're in San Francisco. Wait a minute, you're in Seattle. Wait a minute. You're in New York. You're in Providence, Rhode Island. You're in Boston. You're in Washington, D.C. That's right. That's right. Well, where's your authority? They have no authority. They have no authority whatsoever to do what they're doing. Nothing Donald Trump has done since the election has gone without judicial review, and in most of those cases, judicial obstruction and interference. Martha McCallum on Fox, she's a real journalist. A very lovely person, by the way. She has integrity. She tries to do the right thing, and she does. She invited us, that is me, on the program. She invited me last week. I couldn't do it. She invited us again today, so I did it. So I want to play the next 6 minutes for you on Martha's show. I've gotten endless texts and emails from most of the people you would know who appreciated it. I don't believe I've ever done this before. If I have, it's rare. So take a listen. Up the volume, sit back. Here we go. Cut 15, go.
This, I want to put up here the Landmark Legal Foundation, which you were arguing on behalf of and you're part of, versus EPA decision back in 2003, which essentially says that this kind of directive, injunction from a judge must be recorded in writing, not just a verbal decision by the judge. Explain how this impacts what's going on with Boasberg and these flights to El Salvador.
Let me try and help this renowned radical left-wing judge. This is called Judging 101. If you want people to do something, they need to understand what you want them to do. Martha, there's a lot of people in between that courtroom and that flight. President of the United States isn't in the courtroom. The Attorney General is not in the courtroom. The Secretary of DHS isn't in the courtroom. Literally hundreds and hundreds of people are affected by this judge's order. He knows this. He's a judge in the District of Columbia where the bureaucracy thrives. So when you're a judge, Judge 101, you don't just sit at the bench and say, you know, you ought to stop doing this and stop doing that. It doesn't necessarily get to everybody, certainly not in a timely way. He figured it out. It was a little late. It's only been the custom, practice, and tradition in that courtroom for at least 23 years when I litigated this case, which is put your damn order in writing, Judge, so the people you're bullying around and ordering around know exactly what you're doing. It's called giving them notice. That's what it called. So let me help the appellate judges, some of whom were equally renowned for being left-wing, which is this. This is separation of powers. The fact that petitioners are radical leftists, Democrats, attorneys general in blue states, union bosses, and worse, who are bringing these cases in these cities where they know these judges from Biden, Obama, and Clinton exist. This whole thing is becoming a sham. The American people are losing faith in the judiciary. We can't have a judicial oligarchy of unelected judges at the trial court level who aren't even in the Constitution telling the president what to do on human resources, on the border, on deporting criminal illegal aliens. I mean, wait until we get to non-criminal illegal aliens. Can't tell him he can't look at payroll. He can't look at data. What is it that the president can do? Martha, these are ministerial tasks. These are normal tasks for a president of the United States. Notice it only goes one way. Biden violates immigration laws. The border's wide open. Criminal aliens are coming in. Terrorists are coming in. Fentanyl coming in. And the judges sit on their hands. And I can go over and over. This is the greatest assault, listen to me, on the Constitution, separation of powers, Article 2, the power of the presidency, in modern American history.
So
and
let
these
me ask you,
judges,
Mark,
well, they may not talk to each other, they see what each other are doing.
So there's 600 and some judges at this level. You know, in terms of the Supreme Court, if it's as egregious as you say, what would you expect to hear from them? We know yesterday Justice Roberts weighed in really on behalf of the judges' right to say this, and the process is going to play out. There's a hearing on March 21st. What do you think the Supreme Court should do, if anything?
I would say that John Roberts, who I knew before he was a judge, when we both worked in the Reagan administration, it's time to grow up here, Judge. Think about Justice Rehnquist. What would Justice Rehnquist, the Chief Justice, have done when those four originalists 2 weeks ago, when this case involving another rogue Democrat judge, ordered the President of the United States to spend money on foreign activities? What would Rehnquist have done? Would he have joined the four, or would he have joined the radical three? This is an issue of separation of powers, and if it's not resolved, you basically, in the form of your question, have answered it. How the hell are we going to have 680 individual, unelected federal judges? They're federal district judges, not federal national judges, all sitting there behind their desks with their 2 or 3 clerks saying, you know, I don't like this idea of Trump sending this. I don't like this idea of banning transgender. I don't like this idea. This is exactly what Locke, and Montesquieu and Jefferson and Madison warned. When you have a combination of branches rather than separation of branches, and Scalia did too, you have a tyranny. And I don't care about what John Roberts pronounces from the bench. Do your job, Chief Justice of the United States. Don't get into the political fight. Fix it. Because if you don't fix it, we're going to lose our constitutional construct, or Congress is going to have to figure out some way to fix it. And one other thing. The idea, and I've even heard it on my beloved network from some of these former whatevers, that we shouldn't raise our voice. That's our job. This government exists for we the people. It doesn't exist for John Roberts, the judges, Congress, or anybody else. This whole thing was set up for us, to protect us. When these judges are conducting themselves this way, when they're interfering with an election, when they're grabbing, seizing power in front of our eyes, we're all smart, we see it, from the executive branch, a president of the United States. He's elected nationally. They're created by Congress. They're not even in the Constitution. They're using a power, judicial review, that's not even in the Constitution, that was created by the Supreme Court in 1803. They should at least have some level of deference to the President of the United States. And notice one other thing. Compare the number of restraining orders, injunctions, and reversals that Donald Trump has had with the last 10 presidents of the United States.
We just had those up on the board, Mark.
It is grotesque.
Mark Levin. The Great One makes your weekend even better. This is the best of Mark Levin.
You know, Bernie Sanders is a Stalinist. As a young man, he stayed some period of time in a kibbutz in Israel. Not just a communist kibbutz, a Stalinist kibbutz. And it was known as a Stalinist kibbutz. He had his honeymoon in Moscow during the time of the Soviet Union. He's an old red. He's a communist. And more specifically, he's a Stalinist. You know why he doesn't sue me? Because I would prove it. And not only that, I'm a pit bull. And I don't take this crap from lawyers, frauds, phonies, and finks. Right, Care? So Caitlin Collins is one of the many constipated faces on the Constipated News Network. And of course, nobody above an IQ of 17 is permitted to be a host, and she barely made it. She's the eyebrow, you may notice, Mr. Producer. The eyebrow. We notice everything here. So, of course, Bernie Sanders is on yesterday. Why? Because he's a Stalinist Marxist. And CNN promotes Stalinist Marxists and Islamists. That's why. That's why real Americans don't watch this crap. So let's take a listen. Cut 3, go.
When it comes to that effort in the Senate, do you think Senator Chuck Schumer is the right person to lead it?
It's not. I know everyone's beating up on Chuck, and I strongly disagree with them. Strongly. No one is in the caucus more critical of Schumer than I am. But it's not Schumer. It's the caucus. It's not the caucus. It's the Democratic Party.
So stop it. You see, this is the way Stalinists work. It's not Lenin. It's not. No. It's our party is wrong. The Communist Party. It's not committed enough. It's not fanatical enough. Now, you understand this question is absurd since he's not even a Democrat. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? He's a Democratic Socialist, so he's not even a Democrat. He's not even really a Democrat Party member. But it's okay. He gets to comment on everything. Why? Why is it that it's okay for a man who shares the ideology of Mao and Stalin and Castro? Why is it that a man that shares the ideology of the biggest genocidal maniacs, other than Hitler, of course, why is it okay? Why is he treated like he's just another Democrat and just another liberal? Why doesn't a single so-called host and journalist pin his friggin' shoulders to the wall? Why won't this little coward, this bastard, come on any of my programs? And by the way, Sonny Hostin was asked to come on the program. Mr. Producer asked in a respectful email. Any day, any time. Well, wasn't that what you said, Rich? Open your microphone. And what was the response from the official people of The View?
I said any day, any time, and they said she wasn't available.
Never, not available. Never available. Never, ever. Well, let's go down the list, shall we? Next, I'd like you to ask Joy Behar. Would you do that, Mr. Producer? Go back to the same people and say, okay, Joy Behar. Mr. Levin wants to interview Joy Behar. Now that we know Sonny Houston's a coward, Bernie Sanders is a coward. Raskin's a coward. They're all cowards. That's why they go on the Constipated News Network and MSLSD. The problem isn't, Chuck, even though I strongly disagree with him. It's the caucus. It's not the caucus. No. I mean, it's the Democrat Party. Democrat Party's the problem because I'm not running it. But you're not a Democrat, you moron. So the answer from Bernie the Red Sanders, Bernie the Stalinist Sanders, is the same as AOC, the Stalinist Marxist. That is, I am the savior. Marxists always think this way. Go ahead.
And understand that you have a Democratic Party. You got a Republican Party, which is owned by Musk.
You're the Republican Party that's owned by Musk. I ask all you Republicans out there, do you feel you're owned by Elon Musk? Is this guy the biggest putz of putzes? I don't think Joe Biden's the only old man with dementia. I think Bernie Sanders has dementia. I really do. I really do. He thinks he's back in the 1930s and 40s, marching around for Stalin in the streets of Brooklyn. Maybe he's marching with the Rosenbergs. I don't know. What do I know? Oh, the good old days. Wasn't he born in Brooklyn, Mr. Producer? I think he was. But he finds his way to Vermont. And he conquers Burlington, Vermont. Then he conquers Vermont. Because he can't really get elected as a congressman or mayor anywhere else, or a congressman or a senator. But he runs for the Senate. There's space for everybody. Elon Musk owns the Republican Party. And George Soros owns the Democrat Party. Who would you rather have? An America-hating, Israel-hating lowlife like Soros? A crime-promoting, Marxist-promoting, socialist-promoting billionaire like Soros? Or a patriotic American who actually builds things and hires thousands and thousands of American workers like Musk? Go ahead.
Fives Donald Trump will be primaried by Musk, unlimited amounts of money. In the Democratic Party, you got a party that is heavily dominated by the billionaire class, run by consultants.
He really is an old Stalinist Marxist. I'll tell you why. He's not up with the new Stalinism and Marxism. The new Stalinism and Marxism is wokeism and something called modernism. Wokeism and cancel culture. It's based on what Marcuse said, the Frankfurt School in Berlin, that made its way to the United States when Hitler took over, escaped Germany, came to the United States to destroy the United States. The birth of the New Left movement and the birth of what I call American Marxism. Now, what is it? Bernie, you're so yesterday. You're so Stalin. It's today, Bernie. Today. Today it's identity politics. It's not class warfare based on economics. Bernie, you got to catch up. That's not working. You got to say the American is a racist, sexist country. And that every decision the government makes should be based on race and gender. Where are you, Bernie? You're such a throwback. The billionaire. No, Bernie. You got to catch up to the new movements, baby. The new movements. And then, of course, he attacks Donald Trump. This is a guy who hates the Constitution like Woodrow Wilson did. The Constitution, ladies and gentlemen, enshrines the establishment of the bourgeoisie, of the management class, of the billionaires. It enshrines their power. This is what we've been told over the decades. It's too white. It's too old. That's why we need these judges, according to Woodrow Wilson, to fix things. Separation of power stuff prevents us from making progress, from going forward, to imposing our will on the masses, the unwashed. They don't know what's best for them. We do. We're more educated. We're just smarter. We're masterminds. This is who they are. And so they talk about the Constitution, the Constitution. They hate the Constitution. They've been trying to delegitimize the Constitution longer than any of us have been alive. Since the late 1800s and early 1900s, they've been trying to delegitimize the Declaration. God-given unalienable rights. Bernie Sanders doesn't believe in God. He doesn't worship God. Bernie Sanders worships Marxism. That's his God. Government. Centralized, iron-fisted government. That's his heaven. There's not a single person on CNN or MSNBC or Meet the Depressed or Deface the Nation or anything that presses this man. So of course he won't come on my show, because he knows I know who he is. Jamie Raskin, I know who he is. AOC, I know who she is. I know what they are. So let's take a listen. Shall we? Cut 4, continue, go.
Because you issued your own rebuke, as I'll call it, and basically said that you think President Trump needs to turn off Fox News and, quote, read the Constitution.
Look, you know, the guys who wrote the Constitution back in the 1790s when nobody's fools, what they wanted to do is have a separation of powers between the executive, the legislative yes, and the judiciary, so that one person could not assume enormous power. And what you are seeing right now is a president who is authoritarian.
So what you're hearing right now is a man who is a pathological liar, and he doesn't care. He has no moral soul. What he does, what fascists do, what Marxists do, what Islamists do, all the ists do, all the isms do, is they project onto others what they believe. The greatest authoritarian president we ever had was Franklin Roosevelt. He loves Franklin Roosevelt. I would say Joe Biden is the second or third greatest authoritarian president we ever had. At no time did Bernie Sanders invoke the Constitution, separation of powers, in criticizing Joe Biden's seizing of power. At no time did he do that. And he's not going to do that. So he uses the language of the constitutionalist to deceive and to lie. He uses the language of the constitutionalist to attack the constitutionalist. That's what he does. That's typical of Marx and everybody who has a claim to the ideology, even though they can't really define it. In fact, Marx really couldn't define it, which is why of all these offshoots have different kinds of Marxism. Oh, wait a minute, I'm a neo-Marxist. No. I'm a Leninist. I mean, a Trotskyist, a Maoist. No. Okay, get the point? They all come from the same neighborhood, but then they splinter into their own gangs, if you will. But Sanders, he doesn't believe in democracy or republicanism or constitutionalism. And never has. How can you be at a Stalinist kibbutz? How can you have your honeymoon in the Soviet Union's Moscow? How can you be a democratic socialist and be a constitutionalist. They're incompatible. Utterly and completely.
Mark Levin.
We're giving you nothing but the best of Mark Levin.
Jasmine Crockett is a crackpot, and she is a media... Well, she's on the media a lot, isn't she, Mr. Producer? Apparently doesn't do her job much. And she's out there targeting Tesla. She's targeting Tesla. Cut 9, go.
So I'll make sure that I keep it short, but I am truly here for very selfish reasons. Starting with on March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes. Listen, I have learned as I serve on the Doge Oversight Committee that there is only one language that the people that are in charge understand right now. And that language is money.
So she wants him taken down, which means she wants his businesses taken down. Cut 10, go.
I have learned as I serve on the Doge Oversight Committee that there is only one language that the people that are in charge understand right now. And that language is money. And so I've been so proud to see us organize behind a cause, because here's the deal. The things that we're fighting for, we are fighting for our country. We're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for our freedoms. And when I say fighting, I'm saying that figuratively. Obviously, everything that I am promoting is nonviolent. And so definitely don't want anyone to take that word literal in any way. But I think that it is important that we say that we stand for freedom in this country. We stand for our Constitution.
All right, now she's rambling because she was starting to step in it. Worried that she would drag herself into the violence that's taking place. Let's make no mistake about it. They're targeting this man. They're targeting his businesses. They're putting a target on him. He's talked about death threats, how he has to have security around himself. These Tesla dealerships, they're on edge. They're worried. People who own Teslas are concerned. So this is having a real effect on this company. A real effect, this domestic terrorism and violence that's taking place. It absolutely is. And, the propaganda from the left, I believe, was part and parcel responsible for 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump. And they haven't learned a damn thing from it. I told you at the time, I don't think they really gave a damn either. Didn't I say that, Mr. Producer? I really don't. They went through the motions for about 24 hours, barely 48 hours, and they're back at it again. And they're doing it now. And they're also doing it to Elon Musk. This is what the Marxist left does. This is what they do. Rules for radicals. Target your opponents and personalize it. They do it to Clarence Thomas. They do it to Sam Alito. This is what they do. And they're doing it right now. So as you can see, we're intermixing the judge issue / Constitution issue and what they're doing to Elon Musk, because I think there's a relationship. They talk about democracy and freedom, while they're trying to destroy the wealthiest man in the world, actually, who's created tens of thousands of jobs. They're trying to put him out of business, all the subcontractors out of business, and they don't care. They're the ones destroying our Constitution. Schumer said why they put all these judges on there. These judges are utterly and completely out of control. The vast majority of them, they're not Republican judges doing this. In fact, the vast majority of these cases aren't even being heard by Republican judges. Isn't that amazing? You filed, by my count, 129 cases as of yesterday. The vast majority of them in major Democrat cities. And the vast majority of those, the overwhelming majority of those, filed in those cities in front of one of these progressive, quote-unquote, Marxist judges. Wow, that's an amazing scorecard, don't you think? And they're performing as expected. In other words, they're form shopping. They're cherry-picking the judges. They know which judges will deliver for them. Gee, how do they know that? And there they are, getting what they're asking for. So there's no deference to the executive branch, to Article 2 of the Constitution, to separation of powers. But it is they who run around, talk about a constitutional crisis. It's their reporters, like the idiot on Meet the Press, and she is an idiot, who ask questions by putting question marks on the end of them, but are actually making statements as if they're one of these Democrat hacks in Congress. They're not serious. They're not inquisitive. They're not curious. It's part of the problem in this country. We don't have a real press. We have propagandists. We have ideologues. That's what we have. Heavily populated, these corporations, these media corporations, by Democrats and left-wing Democrats. That's why Bernie Sanders is on all the time. He's a Stalinist. That's why Raskin's on all the time. He's a Stalinist. That's why AOC's on all the time. Same with her. Same with her. Here's Schumer, the guy who just said we're loading up the courts with quote-unquote progressives. He doesn't say constitutionalists, does he? He doesn't say people who are going to uphold the Constitution. No, progressives. Well, what's a progressive? We've talked about it for years. I've written about it in many books. They are the progeny of Hegel and Marx. They reject our founding. They reject the Declaration. They reject the Constitution. That's what they are. He's used the word progressives. The progressives intellectuals 100 years ago and since have made it clear they reject the idea of eternal laws and forever principles. They reject the idea of separation of powers and a constitution that they believe inhibits progress and modernity. That's what they've written. That's what they've said. I've read it. I've read it to you. I've explained it to you. I've written about it. So when he gets up and he says, we loaded the courts, over 200 progressives near the end of Biden's term. We did it purposely to stop Trump. He is telling you. The media are too stupid for this, or they're too ideological for this. But even our friends, I don't know why, they're asleep at the wheel. I'm telling you this. He's just admitted, he's confessed what they've done. And then he comes around, because they're propagandists, and says this. Cut 21, go.
This week, the president called to impeach a judge who ruled against him on deportations of alleged Venezuelan gang members, as you know. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts released a rare statement rebuking the idea of using impeachment to settle judicial disagreements. Some constitutional scholars and fellow Democrats, Leader Schumer, say this is a constitutional crisis. Do you agree?
Look how she sets it up. Roberts, some constitutional lawyers and Democrats. What is the question? She just gives the answer, the Schumer answer. That's the problem with all these people living and working and dating and marrying and socializing in the District of Columbia. They all sound the same. They all believe the same. This is a joke. Meet the press. Tim Russert wouldn't conduct an interview this way. Lawrence Spivak, before Tim Russert, he wouldn't conduct an interview this way. It's a disgrace. It's disgusting. All he has to say is, I agree. He doesn't even need to answer the question. I agree with your question. I agree with the substance of it, the purpose of it. I agree with it. Next question. Anyway, go.
It's in a constitutional crisis?
Yes, I do, Kristen, and democracy is at risk.
Look. So keep something in mind. This guy's desperate. So he's going to get more extreme, more radical as time goes on in his statements. In his statements. Go ahead.
Donald Trump is a lawless, angry man. He thinks he should be king.
So here we go. We're going to trash Donald Trump. He thinks he should be king. It's amazing. It is amazing. Go ahead.
Whatever he wants, regardless of the law. And he thinks judges should just listen to him.
No, he doesn't think judges should just listen to him. He's defending the Constitution from your quote-unquote all the progressives we put on the court to stop him. You jackass. You indicted yourself. Mr. Producer, pull it up again, and then we'll go back to this clip. Pull it up again, exactly what he said. Go ahead.
This week, the president called to impeach a judge who ruled against him on deportations of alleged Venezuelan gang members, as you know. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts released a rare
No, not the same clip. What I meant was the one where he is saying that he put progressives on the court. Let's go for that one. Go ahead.
There are those who believe that we are, in real time, living through an assault on the constitutional order. Do you believe that we are in a constitutional crisis right now?
Yes, our democracy is at risk because Donald Trump shows that he wishes to violate the laws in many, many different ways. The good news here is we did put 235 judges, progressive judges, judges not under the control of Trump last year on the bench, and they are ruling against Trump time after time.
There you go. There you go. He's telling you what he did. He's telling you. That's it. Now let's go back to cut 21, Mr. Producer. Go ahead.
Constitutional scholars and fellow Democrats, Leader Schumer, say this is a constitutional crisis. Do you agree? Is the United States in a constitutional crisis?
Yes, I do, Kristen, and democracy is at risk. Look, Donald Trump is a
Okay,
lawless...
that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. I'm going to keep interspersing other events here. The Medal of Honor, I believe it's a monument or facility, has opened in Washington. And the Medal of Honor recipients absolutely deserve it. The ones who have passed, we can certainly remember their memories. These are tremendously heroic individuals. But the fact that Qatar contributed millions of dollars to it, $5 million to it, and the fact that we've had men and women fight in the Middle East against forces that Qatar helped to fund, including now. Qatar's on the side of Hamas and the terrorists, is a disgrace. It's appalling. I don't know who's on the board of this thing. I don't know who the CEO is of this thing. Maybe it's Michael Bloomberg or somebody. I don't know. But they should give that $5 million back to Qatar. In fact, one of the leading figures in Qatar, one of the highest inbreds, was at this event, I believe. I think he was wearing a suit, so nobody would notice. But there it is, the Medal of Honor facility / monument in Washington now has this dirty money, $5 million from Qatar. I thought I'd point that out because it really is a horrible thing. And I blame the people who run the damn thing. Really blame them for it. I don't think they needed to get money from Qatar. And this is how Qatar buys its way into influence, creates the impression it supports the West and the United States. Well, it's funding the Hitler Youth on our college campuses. Well, it's funding people who support things like Khalil and so forth and so on. The President of the United States is trying to deal with all this. It's quite a mess. Quite a mess. Let me put it to you this way in the Constitution, Schumer and his ilk. They are trying to decapitate our government. The head of the government is the President of the United States. The head of our military, the commander-in-chief, is the President of the United States. They're trying to decapitate him, that is, decapitate our government, and put in charge a bunch of radical left-wing Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Ivy League lawyers who were in black robes, who were pushed through the Senate, that Chuck Schumer was running as the Senate Democrat majority leader. So basically the same Ivy League schools that are destroying education, that have opened their arms to Marxists and Islamists, to American haters and Jew haters, those same Ivy League schools They had their fingerprints and DNAs on many of these judges who graduated from these law schools, affiliated with these schools, and are now on the bench defending the Islamists and the Marxists. And their opinions, by the way, that I'm reading over time, they're almost childish in their emotion. I said the other day, they're like bad op-eds, opinion pieces in some local newspaper. They're bereft of actual legal analysis.